Hi, my name's Juliet, and today I'm going to show you some techniques in Shotcut that could make your book cover reveal a little more interesting. The idea of this is not to say how you should do your cover reveal, but to give you individual techniques that you could use in different ways. The whole purpose being that your cover reveal doesn't look like everybody else's, which tends to happen when everyone starts using the latest must-have app. The aim? I'm going to use keyframes to make a book cover appear and change colour. First, I need to create a plain colour background to put onto track V1, so you can see what's happening more clearly. To do that, I go into Open Other, select Colour, and rather than just creating a transparent background, I'm going to use the colour palette to create a neutral colour. Then I drag it onto the playlist and place it onto the track. I'm going to make this video approximately 30 seconds, so I need to drag the clip out to that length. Next, I'm going to put the book cover onto track V3 rather than V2. There is a particular reason for that, which will become evident later, and I need to make it the same length. I don't want to leave the book cover this size, so I'm going to resize it using the Size, Position and Rotate filter by simply changing the percentage. Now for the keyframes. I want the book cover image to gradually appear, so I'm going to select the Opacity filter. Press the keyframe timer. I often find I forget to do this and end up with no keyframe at all, so don't be me. With the cursor at the beginning of the clip, I reduce the opacity down to 0. I only need a beginning and an end to this keyframe, so I move my cursor to 10 seconds and set the opacity to 100. Now I'm going to stack another keyframe on top of this. I want to have the colour start as black and white and change to colour, so I need to use the saturation filter. Saturation is bundled with hue and lightness in another filter, but I need the saturation only filter for this. If you haven't seen this filter before, you'll notice that 100% isn't at the end. That's because you can oversaturate for particular effects, but I don't want to do that. Click the keyframe timer. I want to have the colour be black and white until the image is fully opaque, then to change colour. So I move my cursor to where I want the black and white to end and use the timer on the keyframe timeline to define that point. Then I move the cursor again to near the end of the video and put the saturation to 100%. I'll speed up the playthrough a little. And that's perfect, except that background's a little boring. I'm going to use my new animation for that. If I copy and paste the animation onto track V2, I can increase the size by adjusting the Size, Position and Rotate filter and get this effect. I quite like the background as it is, but there is also a blur filter that you could use on it if you don't want it quite this defined. Now I'm going to hide the off-white background. What happens then is that the background becomes black, which is the standard background if nothing else is selected. See what a difference this makes. Somewhat more sinister, I think. You could try other colours for different results. Next step, music would add a spooky atmosphere. This is a track from the YouTube library, only to be used on YouTube. Facebook and Instagram have a music library too, but if my memory serves me right, you have to have a business Facebook page to access it. Otherwise, make sure you use copyright-free music if you use any at all. I cut the blank space at the beginning of the track and trim it to the length of the video. However, this track doesn't quite fit the tone at the end, so I'm going to adjust that. I cut it shorter to where the music sounds how I want it, and then use the Properties tab to reduce the speed. You can do this just by changing the figure in the box. Less for slower, more for faster. This actually makes the track sound even more atmospheric. Now, in those last few seconds, I decide I want some words to appear. So I create a new video track, add a transparent word clip and format it. For more on this, see the video on text transitions. Then I drag the top left corner to create a fade-in effect and change it to opacity. I also lengthen the fade-in a little. Finally, I want the audio to fade out at the end, so I drag the top right corner of the track, and I think I'm done. There are a lot of individual techniques and ideas in this video. Mix and match them with some other techniques I've already shown you, and those to come, and you'll have something that's unique to you. Thanks for watching, and if you've subscribed, I'll see you again next time.